This is the Journey Podcast. We highlight the journeys of our guests, where they've been, where they are now, and where they are going. Let's join them on their journey. Well, welcome to the Journey Podcast. Today we are joined by Chrissy. She is the CEO of AUI and Clarity HR. And I've only met Chrissy recently, but what strikes me about her is her profound humbleness. Chrissy describes herself as a cheerleader for her companies, and it shows in the incredible work that her companies perform. And while I can go on and on about what I think Chrissy's really the best person to speak for herself, and it shows through the many accolades and awards she has received from her peers. And those include the 30 for the Future from the Greater Akron Chamber, and the Accent on Excellence class of 2022, which Chrissy and I met through that class. I'm a recipient of that as myself from the National Sales and Marketing Executives. And it was great to meet her through that. And we continue to build that by having her on the Journey Podcast today. Thanks for being with me today, Chrissy.
Oh, I'm very excited to be here. Thanks, Nate, for having me.
Sure. Yeah. How's everything going in your world?
Things are good. It's a nice, quiet summer so far. So we'll see how things go in the HR and benefits space, but things are going really well at AUI and Clarity. Thank you for asking.
Fantastic. Yeah, a little bit, hopefully you would deserve some quietness for the next couple of decades after 2020.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about AUI and Clarity HR. What does your business do? And a little bit of the story of how you got into this.
Yeah. So AUI stands for Associated Underwriters Insurance. We say AUI because Associated Underwriters Insurance is a mouthful. So we do small group employee benefits, organizations that have usually less than 50 employees, individual and Medicare, helping people find the right insurance solutions for themselves. We've been in business for almost 50 years. So AUI has been around for a long time, and Clarity is AUI's kind of like scrappy little sister. At this point, she turns 3 at the end of this year. And so Clarity is fractional HR services. So organizations that do not have the capacity or the budget to spend $80,000 to $100,000 for a human resources professional, it gives them a fractional capacity. So we do consulting for organizations, how to hire, how to fire, the right types of handbooks, company culture, dealing with wage compression, any type of awkward conversation that an employer sometimes doesn't want to have on their own, or they have someone who's been a controller for a number of years, but they just kind of did the HR on the side. So we're coming beside them, helping them, give them the right type of guidance and coaching around it.
Those sound like needed and great services in that space. You know, it kind of serves the both sides of the small business world for you. So I can't imagine you founded AUI. So
I did not.
You did not. So how did you come into the role you're in now? Tell us about that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So AUI is a 3rd generation family business, but I am currently the only family member in the business. So it was originally founded by my grandmother. My grandfather was a pastor in a very poor community in the Akron area. And so she worked with a partner in the insurance space so she could pay the bills, because his salary as a pastor did not. And then my father purchased the organization, sent my grandma to retirement. She happily went. And then he and my mom grew the organization from a property and casualty agency into health insurance and employee benefits to where it is. And it was in the early 2000s. I started back in the 90s. It was one of those, if you want a car, you'll work for us. If you want us to pay for college, you'll work for us. And I had every cruddy, crappy job that you can imagine in a family business, from sweeping to making sure that everybody had the right type of candy at the holidays, to calling customers that may or may not have been living at the time, like all sorts of things. Got my college degree. And then my dad said, "Are you going to keep working for us?" And I went, "No, I'm not. This is my 2-week notice. You've given me every crappy job under the planet that could be in insurance, and I hate it. I don't want to work here anymore." And so he said, "Well, will you give me 6 months?" And I said, "No, I'll give you 6 weeks." So in those 6 weeks, he gave me a lot of the things that I wanted within an organization and a position. So I stayed. And then when the Affordable Care Act happened in 2013, he kind of took a step back and said, I don't really know what the industry is going to look like. I don't think that this is something that I want to do anymore. And it's like, well, you made me fall in love with this organization and now I want to be here. So I'll step forward and kind of take us through what we need to do to continue to grow as an organization. And then he passed in 16 and I purchased the organization in 19 from my mom, and she retired. And now we have 18 employees and we're one of the largest independently held agencies in the state. There's been a lot of consolidation in the last couple of years because insurance agents don't necessarily retire, they expire. So now we're just continuing to grow, and our focus with that under 50 market is an underserved population in the small business space that we're happy to continue to grow.
Wow, that's, I love your grandmother started it, the legacy of women-owned business. I think that's really neat. Of course, having your parents as your mentors in that. That's an incredible story. And to have a third generation business, there's like a lot of statistics against you on that. Do you feel that pressure, or do you feel like you've gone your own way and figured out your own path?
Oh, I think that's a really good question. I would say that AUI has gone through 3 different iterations. We don't look the same as we did back in the 70s, the 90s, and 2000s to now. So I would say that I know that it's like less than 3% make it to third generation. So it's kind of cool. But at the same time, I feel like we've had a rebirth every 20 years or so, especially with the Affordable Care Act in 2013. We had to completely change the way we did business. So yeah, it's cool to be kind of like last woman standing right now in the organization. I mean, I have 2 younger children. I don't know that they're going to be in the insurance industry. And to be honest, Nate, I don't know if the insurance industry is going to be around in 10 to 15 years. So we'll see kind of what happens. And it's one of the reasons why we started Clarity, is we needed something that we knew that could continue to withstand the test of time. And while insurance has been around a long time, human resources have been around longer.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that generational story there is, if every generation has to take ownership of it. And Absolutely. If they don't, then there is no forward vision for the next, decades that the business is going to be around. That's some really good advice. So, okay. So 19 years at AUI. Mm-hmm. How do you manage to stay at a place that long? Especially as a business owner, there's acquisition offers. I'm sure that those come along. What has stuck you with that for so long?
I think part of it has been the ability to kind of reinvent. So initially when I was here, it was very much entry-level employee. And then as I continued to grow in my career, it was shaping the organization that I really wanted to be in and own. Because it's one thing to work for someone and work in a family business. It's another thing to purchase the business as an organization separate from everything that you have in family relationships. So, I mean, there's all sorts of fun stories about dealing with headlock and wrestling the organization back in different times and not necessarily agreeing. So I would say that part of it is the ability that I've had to reinvent different parts of the business. What does the organization look like? And really kind of shaping the path of where do I want to be and what type of career path do I want to have? So at first it was, this is paying the bills. And then it slowly became an organization, and what do I want it to look like? And how do I want people to work with me and work for me so that we can continue to change the world, one insurance policy and one HR issue at a time?
Yeah, you'll never have the flexibility you have unless you are able to run things as an entrepreneur. And that's often things that people don't consider when there's a large dollar amount and there's an acquisition in place there. So tell me, what's one thing through this venture that you didn't really expect to happen to you?
I would say it's realizing the impact that you can have in philanthropy as a small business owner. And the capacity that you have by believing that serving the community is just as important as doing business in the community. So, I mean, I've always had a passion to care for small businesses and to care for other business owners, but the realization that we can impact our community in a very large scale when we're willing to have that type of conversation about taking care of the business and taking care of the business owner, because they drive a lot of the economy and the community within us.
So can you expound on that a little bit? Because, That sounds expensive from a small business standpoint. Sure, I can give the hot stove league this little sponsorship and thing like
Mhm.
that, but philanthropy sounds like, I've got to come up with $1 million. What does that sound? What does that look like for a small business?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big word, but it has the potential to have a huge impact in just a really small scale. So, really, it's thinking about as a business owner, what's the what else that kind of drives you as an organization? So, as a business owner, for me, that what else is supporting other small businesses
Mhm.
and thinking about, it's not necessarily I'm going to give away $1 million to this organization. It's I'm going to serve in a volunteer capacity as a board member for an organization because, I may have a certain skill set. So I know how to run a business, so I can help with the finance committee. So giving my volunteer time is helping to shape and helping to make impact where I'm not necessarily giving dollars, but I'm giving my time. Another thought in the insurance industry, and what we kind of looked at when we formed AUI Gives Back, which was we believe, again, serving the community is just as important as doing business in the community. And in the insurance space, we're very busy during certain times of the year. There's other times where we're not. We're kind of sitting around like you can only call your customers so often. So we take some of those hours that we have within those weeks and we volunteer our time in certain areas in the community, whether it is pulling things together for the food bank, painting, and working with an organization called Rebuilding Together of Northeast Ohio that does home renovations. We packed lunches for Good Samaritan Hunger Center. So kind of working on ways that we can do team building and at the same time care for the community. And looking at the small business community too, there are more dollars and hours served by small business owners to nonprofits than there are large organizations that are giving money. So the impact is really huge when you think about it on the scale of what small businesses are truly capable of. So while I think it can be a really big concept to most small business owners, it's just something that we naturally do. We naturally take care of our clients and our customers. And because of that, we're naturally taking care of the community around us.
Wow. That's good word, and I think helpful to those on that journey of trying to figure out how they can give back to their community, because
Absolutely.
making an impact is what most small business owners are here to do, not just, here to make some money and be gone tomorrow. So that's it's important. So what would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing in your business right now, and how are you overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, I would say right now, because we work with so many small businesses, we're feeling a lot of the impact that they're getting from inflation and dealing with war for talent. So helping them figure out how to be nimble is always a challenge for us. I mean, the insurance piece is the easy part. I mean, we find the right type of product for them and we make sure that they're doing the things that they need to do to maintain those policies. On the HR side, it's giving them the right tools and support to make sure that they're able to make good decisions around their hiring practices, around maintaining their company culture and kind of making sure they have the right policies and procedures in place to be compliant. The challenge in the insurance industry is that, as always, it's a political football at times. There are challenges around mental health parity and access to care that we're starting to see. But I would say the biggest challenge is just figuring out how can we be supportive to our small business clients, our small business owners, to make sure that we're taking care of them in a way that they can continue to watch their bottom lines as well.
That's really good. Thanks for sharing that. So tell me, what is the most important lesson you've learned in leading this organization?
I would say it's okay to ask people for their business. I think there's so many times, especially when you're in small business ownership and leadership, that you can sometimes feel uncomfortable having to do that sales piece. Like it's one thing, you love talking about your business, you love helping other people, but asking for business sometimes can be a challenge. And so I would say the most important lesson I've learned over the years is being sure to ask, because everyone loves to help everyone else. There's always that content, that collaboration that can occur. And if you're willing to ask for it, a lot of times it will happen very easily.
So how does that ask work for you? Do you consider yourself an extroverted person, or was it more that you had to practice to get yourself to ask that?
Oh, not at all. I'm extremely introverted most of the time. In fact, I'll sit at home with a weighted blanket on the weekend to recover from all the conversations I've had to have during the week. So it's very much that learning piece of how can I help you, but then also saying, hey, is there any way that you would be willing to help me? So getting to that point where I would start asking for business, I would say it's only happened in the last few years really. And more so as I've had to purchase the organization and knowing that, yes, I have salespeople. We have 7 agents that work within our office that are W-2 employees, but they can't do everything. And there's a difference between them asking for business and me asking for business. My close rate, I didn't realize it until I calculated it a couple of weeks ago, is in the high 90s when I actually ask. So I'm realizing that it's an important part of driving the organization forward. And I need to lead by example in that. So I'm learning.
Wow.
Not perfect at it.
Yeah, well, it must show. I mean, you're an award-winning sales and marketing representative. So there you go. The proof is right there. And a 90% close rating. I would like to learn more about how to get that, because mine definitely is not that high. So, okay. So tell me, in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait somebody needs to run a company like AUI and Clarity HR?
I would say it's being willing to learn. I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. And I want to surround myself with people that are better at things than I am and are willing to collaborate and learn from each other. So I would say as you grow a business, that is probably the most important piece, is you need to be willing to be curious and be willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to have a conversation and learn.
So if somebody was starting out, and maybe acquiring their parents' company, maybe not necessarily insurance, but what would some advice that you would give to them as they're starting their own business?
So if they're acquiring an organization from a family member, the first thing I would ask them is, how do they want it to end? Meaning, once you've purchased the organization, do you still expect to be able to have dinner or lunch or go to holidays with this individual? And if so, then I would tell you that you need to go to therapy as a family, because you're going to deal with some very difficult and awkward conversations that can be emotional. And it's really important that you learn how to talk to each other the right way, because there's any given opportunity often for things to come up as you're transitioning within an organization, especially when it's owned by family members from one generation to another. That being able to talk through those things in a constructive way, and also being able to have real boundaries around, we're going to talk about it now, but we're not going to talk about it later, is really important. If you're not purchasing something from a family member, I would say the other part is to make sure that it's something that you really love doing, because it's easy when the business is good to want to be somewhere. It's another thing when it's not so good, and you're going to have to put in some really hard work and some late nights. So making sure that it's something that you really care about, that you're passionate about, and that if you have a family, your family is on board with as well. So when we looked at purchasing AUI as a family, my husband and my children, I had to have that conversation of, what does this look like for all of us? And are we willing to move forward with it?
Very, very good advice. Probably the first acquisition advice we've had on the journey. So thank you about that.
Absolutely.
So this is a little bit deeper dive question. Can you tell us about your biggest mistake you've made in your career and what you learned from that?
So I would say the biggest mistake that I had was being afraid to let someone go. And it was a situation where I had an employee who had pretty much said, I'm not happy here. And I thought that it was my responsibility to get them to love the organization as much as I did. And I did them a disservice by trying to continue to keep them, when what I should have done was let them exit. Because ultimately they are much happier in what they're doing, and we are better off as an organization without them, not because we didn't want them here, but because they weren't happy. So I would say that when someone tells you that they're unhappy in the organization and there's really nothing that you can do to fix it, stop trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And I'm a fixer everybody is redeemable. I don't want anyone to ever leave. I take it personally, and I shouldn't.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not the right fit.
Sometimes it's just not the right fit.
Yeah. You can still be friends afterwards.
Exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely. So who's been your most important mentor through this journey?
So I saw that question and I kind of had to think, And I would say that it's not any one person, because I have a tribe of mentors in a lot of different areas. Some of them are personal, they're professional, some are older than me, some are younger than me. It just kind of depends on where they are. But I will say there was one piece of advice that Lorraine Schukert, she runs Prosper for Purpose. It's a marketing company up in Cleveland. A conversation that we had back in 2000 and I would say like 17, 18. And she talked about the concept that your business is your baby. So a lot of times, especially with people that have employees, we think like, I'm taking care of my people. I really care about my organization, but I really care about the people that work there. And sometimes to the detriment of the business, we make decisions on whether we're going to keep someone or we're going to hire someone and how things are going to work out. And so treating your business as your baby, and the individuals who work in that business are the caretakers of your baby. So there are going to be some that are just like a high school babysitter. And then there's going to be some that you look at that are like a nanny or a teacher or a college professor. So kind of treating your organization like an extension of you, as opposed to looking at the individuals as the organization. That's probably the best piece of mentoring advice that I've ever had. And it was a really quick conversation, but it's carried with me throughout the years. And I use it a lot in conversations with other business owners when we're having difficult conversations about, should I keep someone? Should I let someone go? Should I hire a new person? Do I really love what I'm doing? Is it time for me to kind of like sell the baby? Is it time for it to, and that's the other piece of it, is looking at organizations like they grow. I mean, so you have a baby and then you get to the point where they're a toddler and it's that unruly, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this organization stage? The goal is for them to get to be like a PhD student where, they don't need you all the time. Occasionally you're there for giving advice, but it's not weighting you down and taking as much of your time anymore. So that's kind of where I'm looking at things in life cycle too, in business as an extension of you.
That's really, that's great advice. Really glad that you shared that. Thank you. So tell
Absolutely.
me what's one lesson that your job at AUI has taught you think anybody should learn, whether they own the business or they're in the entry level?
I would say, don't be the smartest person in the room. It's that, and coming into a room and never feeling like I'm the smartest person. That's, I would say, humility and understanding, seeking to understand in a group is really important to be successful long-term.
Good word there. So, okay. So what's one thing that you do that almost no one else in your industry agrees with you on?
In the industry?
Oh, I don't know. A group of peers. You're in a room of group of peers. What's unique about Chrissy and what you do?
I don't think anybody believes that insurance can be fun. So, and it is. We have a really great time because nothing is ever boring. There's always something interesting going on in the benefit space, and every organization is different. So while we may do a lot of the same things over and over, it's always different because you're always working with different people. So I think that the worst, well, it's a best kept secret, is that the insurance industry can be fun. And we have a lot of fun at AUI.
Well, I can believe it. I'm not convinced that insurance is fun myself, but I'll take your word for it. So I'll have to convince me. Okay.
That's fair.
And maybe it's the rest of the industry's made it boring for the rest of us.
I think that's it, because people they undersell how much fun you can have by just taking care of organizations. Because if you can take care of their people, then they can take care of the things that drive their business forward, and we all change the world together. So I just look at it as a collaborative effort. That's why I think insurance can be fun. So
true. Okay. Give me some underrated tools that you couldn't do your job without.
My calendar app. So Calendly. I live and die by my calendar.
That's a great app. Not a sponsor yet. So
yes. Oh yeah, you need it. So Calendly.
That's what we use to schedule all our guests here on the journey. It's fantastic.
Yes. So I live and die by my calendar. My paper planner that helps with goal setting is something that's important for me. I would say the other piece in the insurance industry is the ability to just listen, talk less and listen more.
Great. Okay. If you were going to start another business tomorrow, what would that business be?
Oh, I would be a professional closet organizer. And I would, when people say, what if you start over, I want to organize people's closets. I cannot wait.
There's that TV show that's really popular right now that I keep being told I have to watch, but I don't like organizing that much. I'd rather just get a dumpster and throw it all away.
Well, Marie Kondo is my hero, and I
Okay.
can't remember what the Netflix special is either that has all of the different, everything's color coded and boxes, and I love it. That's what I would do. I would be a professional organizer tomorrow.
Yeah, my show would be hoarders. I would just show up with dumpsters. So, okay. Tell me, what was your, and maybe this doesn't apply necessarily to you. I'm not sure what you did in high school or college, but was there any other jobs that were your favorite besides working for your parents?
So I was a speech and debate coach as well. And that was probably my favorite job, was coaching high school speech.
Okay. And just because you like to listen to debate, or was there something else about it?
So I was more in the theater and art. So we did like expressive original oratory. So writing our own speeches or performing other speeches of other individuals, doing little snippets from plays. And I loved being able to pull those together, help the students kind of create their own interpretation. And I mean, I would say that if there's one skill that I am so grateful for my parents and making sure that I did something constructive, it was putting me in speech and debate when I was in junior high and really kind of pushing me to continue to do that, because it's a skill that has followed me throughout my whole career. And I'm not usually intimidated having to have conversations. I may not like it, but I'm good at it. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. So do you feel like you draw any insight from that in your job every single day? What would that be?
Absolutely. It would be learning and watching cues from other people when you're talking to them and not being intimidated by being able to have a conversation, whether you know exactly what the subject matter is or being able to just kind of just talk. So not being intimidated by it.
Yeah, good stuff. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, Chrissy, I appreciate you being here on the Journey podcast. It really was a pleasure just to take some time and chat with you a little bit. Got a couple of rapid fire questions here at the end. Okay.
Yeah.
What are 3 books you would recommend to the audience and why?
Okay. So StrengthsFinder. So Clifton StrengthsFinder, great assessment for who you are as a leader, but then also how you work with others within your organization. We use StrengthsFinder as a hiring tool at AUI and Clarity. Absolutely love it. The Energy Bus by John Gordon is a great book. It's a short fiction about kind of like the energy that you bring into an organization, into the room, dealing with difficult situations. It's required reading when we hire someone. So everyone takes the CliffFinders assessment, and then everybody reads the Energy Bus the first week that they're here. And then another short book that I really like is U Squared by Price Pritchett. It talks about quantum leaps within yourself. So, and it's probably, I want to say like maybe 30 pages. Great book.
We like those short books sometimes.
Yes.
Too, so.
I think every book that I've given you, the longest one is like 130 pages. So
yeah. Sometimes it's just short and sweet, get to the point, help us figure out our problem. Okay.
Absolutely.
If I were starting a business today, what is the one word of wisdom you would give me to get started?
Do it.
Just
do it.
Okay. All right.
Momentum.
Great. So I've asked you a lot of questions today, Chrissy. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Are there any questions you wish I would have asked you?
I don't think so. This has been great. I've enjoyed myself a lot, Nate.
Well, this is good. Yeah. So tell the listeners, the viewers, where they can find you, Chrissy, online with AUI, Clarity HR, or just engage with you personally.
Yeah, so great places are LinkedIn, of course. So Chrissy Myers CEO, Associated Underwriters Insurance, AUI, and Clarity HR. All of them have pages. And then on Instagram, Chrissy Myers CEO is another great place to kind of see where we are. And then our websites, auiinfo.com and clarityhr.com.
Great. Thanks, Chrissy. It's really fun getting to know you a little bit better through the Journey podcast. I'm sure that we'll have other opportunities to engage. Go check out Clarity HR and AUI online. Engage with Chrissy. Some great services there. Great company. Just a lot of resources that you can learn from their company. Chrissy, thanks for being a part of the Journey podcast today.
Thank you, Nate.
Sure. Thanks.